It shows live on mine. Okay, on here.
All right.
That's just me. So I have it on here. Or I guess we can read the questions there, right? Okay.
Yep, and they'll send it here.
Cool.
All right, hi everyone. Thanks for joining. Just gonna wait a couple minutes and let people join in, and we'll get started soon. Okay, that's good.
Okay.
Cool. Oh, the president of UNLV is here.
Yeah.
Awesome.
President of CSUN.
Vice President Murphy, thanks for joining us. Perfect. All right, well, thanks everyone for joining. Before we get started, just to start things off, my name is Austin Brown. I'm the ASUN president this year. I'm in my senior year studying political science and psychology in the Honors College. Today I have a very special guest with me.
How's it going? My name is Matthew Hahn. I'm the president of the Graduate Student Association. I'm studying physiology and pharmacology for my PhD and also working on my MBA.
Matt and I are here today. We're going to host a little Return to Campus Instagram Live with Vice Provost Shintani today. So we'll be answering all of your questions about returning to campus, what classroom life is going to look like. And we just want to let you all know, feel free to drop any questions in the chat or in the comment section. We have people behind the scenes getting all of your questions compiled, so we'll get those answered for you today.
Alrighty, and we'll kind of just, we'll be getting started here in just a few moments once Vice Provost Shintani joins us. And if you guys have any other questions that you'd like to kind of add into the comments for him directly, feel free to do that, and we'll have some people behind the scenes hopefully grab those questions, and we'll try to present those as the conversation moves on. I was going to say, do you guys have any upcoming events that you want to tell everybody about?
We're so excited for T-Pain this Friday. So hopefully we see so many of you there. We've already sold like over 1,000 tickets. So make sure to grab your tickets at the Wolf Shop today. They're $20 down at the Wolf Shop. You can buy them online or at the box office the day of. So feel free to join and grab your tickets. You can also show your proof of vaccination or your negative test result, and you'll get a priority seating wristband. So you just come up to the third floor of the Joe Crowder Student Union in Central Station, and they'll give you that wristband.
Yeah, I think it should be a pretty good concert. I actually got my tickets, 2 of my tickets yesterday, and the Wolf Shop was already selling out, so you guys should have a good amount. The Wolf Shop does have more tickets though, so you guys should be good to go if you're looking to grab your tickets there.
We're going to scroll around and find Vice Provost Shintani, and we're going to add him to the call, and we'll get started.
There we go. Yeah.
All right. He should be hopping
Momentarily.
Yeah, send some love in the chat if you guys are headed to the concert on Friday.
Wait, can you guys hear me?
Awesome.
You want to hide it on a little bit now. Hi, Vice Provost.
Hi there, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
I could barely hear you guys.
Oh, okay. Try to scoot in and talk a little louder here. Is that a little better?
Oh, there it goes. That works.
Okay.
Hi there. Let me see that's working.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Vice Provost Shintani. We're super excited to have you here and hear some answers to some questions about what returning to class is going to look like.
Sure. So we have about 94% of our classes are going to be in person. We have about 6% that are going to be online. We're going through some adjustments because there's sometimes we have departments where faculty have emergencies that cause them to have to change how we're delivering their courses. But in general, we're going to be pretty much on in person. So we're going to be back hopefully to a normal year this year. So.
That's good to hear. So I guess what will some of those in-class classes actually look like this year in terms of?
So this year we're not going to have social distancing. So everybody, normal classroom, the lecture hall, all the seats will be full, or you know, as to fit the capacity of the class. But we will not be, we will be requiring masks. So the state and the county is requiring all students to be wearing, everybody on campus, instructors and students, to be wearing masks in indoor settings. So we really want to help protect everybody from, this new Delta variant that's very contagious. So if you're vaccinated or unvaccinated, you still must wear a mask at all times in all indoor settings.
Awesome. So I know you touched on that a lot of our classes are going to be all in person this semester, which we're super excited to have everyone back on campus. Is Highflex still going to be offered this year?
No. I mean, there might be some classes that are in hybrid mode. Those were classes that were traditionally had some online and in-person instruction, but those are very few, and those were traditional hybrid classes that were taught in the past that way. So in general, we're not teaching Highflex at all.
So does that mean we've increased the number of online courses as well this year for students?
So we are really, I'm going to say, there's not a large increase in online courses available. Instructors do have the prerogative of being able to record their lectures, and that kind of depends on the instructor and the class structure that allows them or doesn't allow them to do that. So in general, we're going to be back in person. We might have some classes. I think my class, I'm going to try to record my lectures so students can refer to them later, or if they can't make it, they could see those. But that, again, in general, we want to have that in-person experience for all our students.
Awesome. Great. Yeah. So I guess kind of talking about that in-person experience a little bit. So if, let's say I am going to class on a weekly basis, and then, I start feeling a little sick because I went out with some friends or something, and, now I felt sick for maybe a few days. Is there anything that I should typically do, I guess, since we're kind of entering into this post-pandemic type of
thing? So we're still going to be looking at COVID protocols if you're feeling ill. So basically, we want you to stay home and isolate. If you're feeling not well, and we would like you to immediately go get tested for COVID and await those tests to see what happens. But in the meantime, kind of isolate yourself from other people to protect them, just in case you are contagious and you are carrying the COVID-19 virus. So after if your test comes back negative, you can come back to class. If it comes out positive, we need you to report that you are positive to the Student Health Center. They'll kind of contact your instructor and other folks, and we'll try to identify people that might have been in close proximity to you in the class, so they can be protected accordingly. So, and in close proximity means within a 6-foot radius circle of you. So for long periods of time, for 15 minutes or more. Okay, so if it was somebody else sitting right next to you in class, that is considered exposure. The other thing to keep in mind is if you have been vaccinated, you don't have to quarantine due to that exposure. You do have to be tested. If you test positive, then you have to quarantine. If you're unvaccinated, you immediately should quarantine, get tested, and go into isolation until you've been shown not to be infected. Okay, unvaccinated people are much more susceptible to the virus, so we like them to protect themselves and other people by isolating after an exposure.
Gotcha. Okay. So, and let's say I'm exposed to the virus, and I'm either unvaccinated or vaccinated, and I do have to quarantine because of a positive test result. That contact between, about that test to the professor. What are some of the things that the professors are going to try to do to try to, help with that? I know you said maybe recorded lectures, but is there anything official?
So faculty are required to make accommodations for students who are being quarantined. So if you miss work, you have to have the opportunity to make that up. In some cases, the faculty may offer recorded lectures, and some not. Maybe they'll offer other kinds of accommodations for the students to make sure that they can make up that work that they missed. In no in no way should the student be penalized for doing the right thing by trying to protect the community. We're also making sure that if courses have mandatory attendance policies, that students that are quarantined are not going to be penalized because of those policies.
Oh.
So kind of going off of that, on the other side of things, if my TA or my professor gets sick, what happens then?
So I think that's going to be, depends on the severity of the illness and other things. It'd be like in a normal semester. If he's sick maybe one day, they might just cancel class for that day and give some kind of alternative assignments. If the instructor is very sick or the TAs are very sick, they will again be asked to quarantine. And in that case, if they're well enough to maybe deliver something online, they could try. That could be an option. We're trying to do what's best for the students at the same time. As students don't have the technology, it's really inconvenient to do that. We'll try to get an alternative instructor in to cover those courses. Again, we'll have to look at those on a case-by-case basis.
Awesome. All right, and then so I guess for the students that are living in the dorms right now, or at least kind of on campus, is UNR going to try to provide anything like meals or medical care or any other resources to anybody who kind of becomes ill with COVID or has to self-quarantine?
So students are self-quarantined. That we have quarantine rooms in all the res halls, and so you'll get more details that from the folks from Res Life when you talk to them. But I know there's rooms available for students to quarantine in during the time that they're infected. In some cases, they may self-quarantine or self-isolate in their rooms, in their dorm rooms. It kind of depends on a case-by-case basis and the who's been exposed or not. If it's two roommates that both been exposed, or they can quarantine together. Otherwise, they have separate rooms that isolate them from the rest of the res hall populations. And I'm sure they're going to continue as they did last year to deliver meals to these folks and check in with them. I know the student health center will know about their condition, and they'll probably be making calls, daily calls, to see how they're doing and checking on that thing. So, and they will have access to the staff and facilities at the student health center.
Gotcha. So do you think you could also kind of maybe build off of that in terms of, what services are available to students just on a regular basis, not in terms of a quarantine basis? So
we are offering, the student health center is going to have offering vaccinations for students that have not been vaccinated. And there'll be continual announcements about that. They will also be offering testing for students that are suspected of having exposure or showing symptoms. You could come to the student health center and get tested to determine what your COVID status is going to be. In terms of other things, we will still have opportunity for students to have, and this is not just for students that are infected. I know they're going to have, over the last 2 years, we've kind of adopted the ability to do remote advising sessions and remote tutoring sessions. So again, if you're quarantined due to COVID, you have access to that. But if you're just a normal student, you have the option of being able to have remote access to your academic advisors and also to some tutoring sessions. It's not all, but I think people are being fairly flexible. I'm imagining that, I know when I taught last year, I had my office hours were online. So some faculty will probably have their office hours online also, but we want to make sure that they also are available for face-to-face, in-person access to students that prefer that. So, it's going to be at their prerogative of how they set that up. But again, we want to be as flexible as possible and offer remote access, but also in-person access. Because I know a lot of students prefer in-person access. Some people prefer online if that's more convenient for them. And the degree to which people kind of adopt those two processes is kind of up to the faculty member. But I know our student support offices are kind of offering both types of options.
Okay, so it seems like it's really flexible this year, which is nice.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we're hoping to do what's going to be best for all the students. So, and I know students are going to are transitioning from a period of a lot of different degrees of isolation depending on their situation. So, I mean, the adjustment to a full-blown open campus is going to be different. And so if we're having situations where students are experiencing stress or a hard time adjusting, we highly recommend that they take advantage of the services that are on campus, including the counseling center, the disability resource centers, the tutoring centers, and so we're trying to be as flexible as possible and trying to make everybody readjust to coming back to campus.
Yeah. Thank you for that. We appreciate that. Yeah. So, going back to what the classrooms are going to look like, is social distancing going to be enforced in the classrooms this year?
No, so right now there's no social distancing. You can sit in any seat anywhere next to anybody you choose to. We will also have supplies available if you want to wipe down your surfaces and things like that. The custodial services will continue to work to keep the buildings and rooms as clean as possible. We know that COVID isn't transmitted very much by surfaces, but to be safe, we are going to continue to have hand sanitizers and wipes available in all classroom settings.
Okay, awesome.
So I guess kind of building off of that a little bit too. So since we're going to be cleaning all of the surfaces, or at least we have that option to, but we're still required to wear masks in the classroom. How does that affect things like drinking water in the class or having snacks while you're in class or anything like that?
So I don't think we're going to restrict students from bringing in water or snacks into class, but we are going to ask that when you're not eating or drinking, that you wear your mask. We don't want to have students with their mask off for extended periods of time. So again, trying to keep everybody safe and making sure everybody's accountable to themselves and to their classmates. We hope that that's not going to be abused. If somebody's eating their whole lunch and has their mask off for the whole class period, that might be a little extreme. And I think if I were a student, I would say, hey, can you put your mask on? Maybe eat your lunch later. But again, we need to do it safe for the community. And I think most people will. But if you need a sip of water, yeah, definitely take your mask off and do that.
Cool. So switching over to more of the academic side of things, is the pass-fail grading option still going to be available this year?
No, that ended in spring. So that the SU grading, and that was set up fairly liberally, so you can apply it retroactively. We're not doing that for this as of summer 2021 on. So that we did change the policy on the grade replacement policy. So that has changed and will continue to be that policy will continue to allow students to do grade replacements for upper division classes. In the past, it was only X number of credits, and they had to be 200 level or lower and taken within a certain amount of time. We liberalized that quite a bit to allow students in upper division classes to replace those courses if they choose to.
Awesome.
Okay, so I guess kind of in terms of the grading scale a little bit there, like let's say for instance I have a class where attendance is mandatory, but it's still offered online. Does it really kind of come down to the individual professor that you have in terms of the attendance policy and being able to, I guess, do like an online only if it is offered?
Yeah, so again, that will totally depend on the course and the instructor. I know we've had a number of students asking if they could do their whole schedule online, just because of the way are emphasizing coming back to campus. It would be really difficult for a student to get their full schedule online. There are some courses, but it would be really difficult. If you absolutely need that option, you can. Let me step back a second. I would contact your academic advisor to help put together a schedule that would work for you. We can't guarantee we can make a fully online schedule for you. That, like I said, it would be fairly difficult. But in certain cases, it can happen. We would also recommend that you talk to the DRC if you need special accommodations, so we can see what we can do they would help you kind of arrange accommodations if you have some kind of issue that warrants it. And the last option I would say is talk to your instructor. Some instructors may, again, like you were talking about, some folks are going to try to record their lectures to allow students to view them later, but again, that's going to be up to the discretion of the instructor to decide how they're going to do that. So for the most part, I have to say it would probably be difficult for someone to get their full schedule online this semester or going forward.
So it sounds like it mostly comes down to just having effective communication between, us as students and our professor.
And your advisor too. I think your advisor could be really helpful in those situations.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So speaking of effective communication, so if one of my classmates tests positive, what is that going to look like? What does that process look like for students who are not positive and the class as a whole? I'm not 100% sure how we were going to handle it. We were talking about faculty announcing that they might have had a positive in their classroom, and I think maybe talking to Dr. Cheryl Hug English about that. Did she speak to you guys already about yesterday? Or I know she's one of your guests coming up, right? Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, we're also having another Instagram Live with Dr. Cheryl Hug English, and she'll be answering COVID-related questions. Yeah, so how we go forward with identifying contacts and such is kind of complicated, and I think I don't want to give the wrong information, so I'm gonna defer to Dr. Hug English on that one. We'll save that question for tomorrow then.
Yeah.
Plus, it sounds like students do have that opportunity to clean anything in the classroom as they arrive. So just in case, they want to add that extra precaution, it's at least available to them.
Yeah, and that's the masks are pretty effective at protecting other people from you if you're infected. So we really want to emphasize how important it is that we wear a mask indoors, especially during this kind of period where COVID, the Delta variant, starts surging some. Again, we have to be accountable to ourselves and to other people and to maintain the community health in general. So, we want to maintain as normal as the year we can. Masks make it are going to be a big part of that.
Gotcha. So kind of, I guess, touching on masks a little bit, do the professors or the TAs, are they going to try to make sure that students are wearing their masks correctly? Because I know it's supposed to be over your nose, over your mouth, kind of the whole thing, not pulled down or anything like that.
Yeah, they will remind students if they're not complying with the mask mandate. It is really critical that we do abide. We want everybody to be accountable. So, but at the same time, if you're asked to put a mask on, we want you guys to, or be reminded to put a mask on or put it on correctly. We hope that we get your cooperation in that. If people refuse to wear masks in class, they can be asked to leave. Because again, we want to protect everybody, and that will be critical that we maintain those safe spaces in the classroom.
So those are really the end of our COVID-related classroom questions. We definitely have some other questions that students have asked us to ask you. But
Sure.
I remind everyone who's on this Instagram Live, feel free to send any questions that you have in the chat, and we'll get those answered as well. But I will start off with kind of a fun one. So if a snow day is called this coming semester, class is going to be offered online.
So I asked the provost this question because I wasn't 100% sure about that. And we think it's going to be so hard for the faculty to pivot to do that. So we don't want to require that. So I think in general, if we close campuses will be closed and classes will be canceled. That being said, we rarely close for snow days. I think, I don't know, in your lifetime, maybe once or twice, maybe. Austin, I don't know.
I think
so. Yeah, but I think you know how hard it was to pivot a couple springs ago. That was really difficult, and so when we're having classes in person, asking faculty to pivot, I think it won't be practical, and it would be difficult on the students too. Not everybody has the technology available so it will cause some inequities that we don't want to burden students or faculty with. So I think we'll probably just the provost's judgment, I think, is wise to just say if we close campus, we'll cancel classes.
Gotcha.
I don't think we're too upset about that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you could go have a snow day, a real snow day.
Or build a snowman or something instead. Your exercise and your education for the day.
There you go. Put a mask on them though.
It might keep you a little warmer also.
Yeah.
But I guess kind of that's like another thing too, kind of slightly COVID related. I know like a lot of graduate students and a lot of undergraduate that we've really felt the kind of the economic burden of COVID, whether that not being able to go to work or missing some work, things like that. Would you be able to tell us maybe a little bit about the HERF funds that are available at all, or how we?
So HERF funds are available on campus through the financial aid office. There's an application that if you type in HERF into the search bar for the UNR search bar, it will take you to that application. And I'm not part of that process, so again, I don't know if Tim Wolf is going to be on this show or not, or Chanel, so I'm sure probably will be, and she might have a better description how the HERF funds are being distributed. It's kind of outside my wheelhouse here, so I don't want to give false information. I do know that is there, the applications are there. I knew the last two rounds of HERF funding have been pretty liberal in if students needed the support that was typically given if they had, could justify or rationalize the need. So, but again, I don't know the criteria how that's being distributed.
Gotcha. Okay. And it looks like we actually ended up sharing the link in the chat there for anybody who's interested. It links directly over to the financial aid office. I think they can find a little bit more info. So,
yeah.
Okay. So one of the other questions that I think we've been hearing a lot around this campus, but the iPads. So Nevada hits back this week. Our mentors are back. We're super excited to have people back on campus. We noticed a lot of our freshmen all have iPads.
Yeah.
So are upperclassmen going to be getting these iPads at all?
Unfortunately not. I'm sorry. This is a pilot program. This is our first year running that. And I think the idea is this is our first class that will get the iPads, and every subsequent freshman class until we build it out. And I know that's unpopular for the sophomore, juniors, and seniors, but we couldn't afford to supply everybody with iPads, and but the benefit that you will receive is that Apple is providing a lot of different types of programs to promote digital literacy on campus that you will have access to. That includes some coding classes and some training on how to develop apps and things like that all students will have access to.
And when do those classes start?
I'm not sure. I'll have to take a look at that. I'll have to. We'll send announcements out. I should know, but I don't know. I'm sorry about that.
All good.
Yeah, no worries. I was gonna say it seems like it's gonna be a full initiative, kind of up and down the chain moving forward.
Yeah, and we're encouraging faculty to start using iPads and just technology in general to develop more active learning environments for the classroom. And so again, those are kind of side benefits of this that should impact all our students.
Absolutely.
Or direct benefits, I should say. But.
Alrighty. Well, that's I think most of the questions that we had. Do we want to try to, I guess, a few questions again popped up in the chat there, then we can kind of go from there. Looks like one of them was so let's say somebody tests positive for COVID, but let's say they end up coming to school. Is there something that's kind of accountability wise that the university will be doing to ensure that those people who test positive don't come to the campus?
I think that's difficult for us to know. Unless they're showing symptoms. Okay. So really, this is really important that everybody takes into consideration their fellow students, right, in the community in general. If you're positive, you have to think about other people besides yourself, and self-isolate and do the proper protocols to make sure that you're safe to be around other people, or other people are safe to be around you, I should say. So we really encourage. It's going to require everybody's cooperation in this situation. So like I said, if you have somebody that's asymptomatic but positive, we wouldn't know unless they told us. So yes. So.
And then a follow-up to that question. So how is that going to be enforced within the residence halls?
Again, I think if a student tests positive, we'll go through the normal self-isolation and the quarantining protocol. There's a set number of days. I think it's 10 days. I'm not sure. I can't remember what it was. But you'll be required to self-isolate for that time. So if, it kind of depends on, again, the situation. They could put in the quarantine rooms, or in some cases, it might be appropriate to have them self-isolate within the room if the roommate situation is kind of set up in a way that makes sense. But yeah, the Res Life is going to kind of monitor their residents. We're gonna have a lot of people off campus that we're going to have to expect them to do the right thing and take care of themselves and the community. So.
Gotcha. So it sounds like it kind of comes down a lot more to the Res Life director. So if you have a question about that, maybe bring that up with them and then kind of go from there. Gotcha. All right.
Well, Vice Provost Shintani, I think that's all the questions that we have for you today. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with students?
No, I'm excited. We're excited to be back on campus. It already feels like we're getting back to normal with just all the fit students in place. I want to thank everybody that has been involved in getting us back to where we are, and we're excited that the faculty are excited. You feel a real energy on campus. Was it last Friday? I was at the Nevada Fit Mentors training in a room with 500 students in the ballroom. It was amazing. I mean, it was such a strange feeling to have people back. And I appreciate all you guys are doing, because I'm promoting all these safe practices, but getting people excited being back on campus. I just purchased my basketball tickets, so I'm excited about that season starting and going to football games. And so, yeah, we're excited. I think we'll have a great year, and I think we'll be able to, we'll weather the surge that's going on, or any subsequent types of situations. But that's going to require the cooperation of everybody, and I appreciate ASUN taking the lead in that. You guys are great, and I appreciate everything you're doing. Austin, I love you. The video you just put together, that was pretty amazing. I'm sure other people are going to see that pretty soon. So good job.
We want to make sure our pack is staying healthy and we're back on campus. So I know between ASUN and GSA, that's our primary goal.
Oh, and GSA, I'm sorry. I didn't think GSA. Thank you, GSA. Well, you guys have a good rest of your day, and feel free to contact me if you have any questions. My email address is Shintani, SHINTANI @unr.edu. Happy to answer everybody's questions.
Perfect. All right. Okay. Well, thank you again for joining us, and it was
thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
Thanks.
We'll see you
later.
Bye.
So, I guess, is there anything that Austin, that you wanted to share about any more of the upcoming events or anything like that?
I just want to say thanks so much to everyone who joined. We have a full-blown welcome week list of events that can be found on NevadaAHUN.com. You can also access any of these events from Pack Life. I also want to let you all know that tomorrow Matt and I will be back here again at 1 p.m. With Dr. Shahag English, getting all of your COVID-related questions answered. So vaccines, testing, all of that fun stuff. We're going to have all the answers tomorrow. Same place, same time, right here.
Yep.
What about on the GSA side of things?
On the GSA side of things, we're welcoming everybody back. For me personally, after being gone for a year, it feels like I'm a freshman again, honestly, just coming back to campus. It's like, I get to see everybody, everything's alive and kind of moving. So, we want to keep things that way. Just try to be cognizant of, everything that you're kind of doing and some of the things that you kind of come into contact with in class. And, if you're ever unsure, a lot of the COVID tests are usually free. So you can try to look at the different resources, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of those tomorrow with Dr. Shahag English. So, yeah.
Well, again, thank you all so much for joining us today. We're super excited to continue these chats and answer more of your questions. But until tomorrow, go Pack.
Yeah, go Pack. See you guys later.
I think you're still